If you've ever been told hormones don't cause weight gain, yet you experienced weight gain after starting HRT, you're not imagining it. And I get just as frustrated when I hear so-called hormone experts, especially online, saying this to women. It's incredibly dismissive. Not to mention that a lot of these women who say it never dealt with weight issues. So today I want to share how different hormones can influence your weight, what's really happening, and most importantly, what you can do to support your body so that you feel and look your best. Let's start with progesterone. Technically, progesterone is a diuretic. It helps your body excrete sodium and water. That's why, in theory, it shouldn't cause weight gain. But many women do notice water retention when they first start it. It's almost like being pregnant when progesterone is at its highest. Hormones influence your fluid balance, so your body has to go through an adjustment period. And that can, unfortunately, look like puffiness or a few extra pounds on the scale. It's not typically fat gain, it's typically more fluid, but it can feel really discouraging and frustrated, especially if you're not expecting it or you're already dealing with weight gain in this phase of life. Next is estrogen. This is a key player in metabolism, insulin sensitivity, and fat storage. Now, if estrogen is too low, we often see that central weight gain like belly fat, higher cholesterol markers in labs, as well as insulin resistance. And this is why when women are on progesterone only and the provider refuses to give them estrogen, I strongly encourage them to advocate for it or find a provider who is not afraid to use estrogen. Now, if you are on estrogen HRT and the dose is too high, or you just don't have enough progesterone to balance it out, it can lead to water retention and even some fat storage, especially around the hips and thighs. That's why the dose and delivery method really do matter. With HRT, the same way that the lowest dose is not necessarily better, more is not always better either. It's really about finding your sweet spot. And unfortunately, this does take time, a hell of a lot of patience, and fine-tuning with your provider. Now let's talk about testosterone. For some women, it can really help with energy, libido, motivation, muscle strength. But if the dose is too high, you can see increased visceral fat, fluid retention, as well as other annoying symptoms like acne, hair growth in unwanted places, oily skin, irritability. And that's why some experts and many of my mentors are against pellets and even injections. Though I don't put injections in the same camp as pellets. I think injections are a wonderful option for a lot of women, especially those who do not absorb topical hormones well. The thing is, they need to be dosed appropriately. And with pellets specifically, once they're inserted, the dose cannot be adjusted, and women's levels often go really high when they use pellets. So in my opinion, in women, testosterone should be replaced at physiological doses, not at men's levels. And I'm sure there's providers who may argue that viewpoint, and that's fine. But if you are gaining belly fat, you're feeling edgy, aggressive, maybe your voice is getting deeper, or your libido is uncontrollable since starting testosterone, it's really important to check your levels as well as dosage. Now, when it comes to midlife metabolism, in your 40s and above, it does start to change. When cortisol is dysregulated, it can promote excess weight or make it really hard to lose weight. And then we have insulin resistance. That becomes more common in this phase. I'm not saying that everybody develops that, but many women do, even if you think you're eating healthy. This is why I go on and on and on about eating ample lean protein, fiber, and eating enough to keep your blood sugar stabilized. Go and listen to the episode that I did a few weeks back on the consequences of under-eating as a woman over 40. I will also link to that in the show notes. So the other thing is many women also tend to move less in this phase of life because they're freaking exhausted. They're not sleeping well, they're overwhelmed, and they're just not motivated because of the decline in hormones, but also from years of overdoing, overfunctioning, people pleasing, and they're done, right? So if you are on HRT and gaining weight, it could be a mix of hormone therapy needing to be adjusted as well as these natural metabolic shifts that I just shared. Now, the other thing to consider and to talk to your provider about is your thyroid. So many women do not get tested properly for thyroid function. It is not your fault. Most providers do not do this, unfortunately. As we age, our thyroid function does become more compromised. And when you start HRT, especially estrogen, your thyroid can be affected by that. So it is really important that your provider also assesses your thyroid markers, your thyroid levels, as you optimize your HRT regimen. They really should be looking at everything. Now, in a perfect world, and if I made the rules, which unfortunately I don't, I would have all women assess their thyroid health first before going on HRT. Then I would have all women start on progesterone therapy, whatever form works for them, because it does support your thyroid health. And then if after a few months of optimizing those things and you're starting to feel good, but you may have symptoms of low estrogen, that would be the time to add that. Then once that's optimized, a conversation about testosterone should happen. That's how I learned about HRT. That's how I did it personally. I did not gain weight when I started hormone therapy, and I do believe is because I had so many things in place in terms of diet, lifestyle, but I also had the right thyroid support first. So besides adjusting your regimen with your provider, what can you do if you've started to gain weight? So I want to give you a few things to think about. Move your body. Daily walking plus 2 to 3 days of strength training per week protects lean muscle and supports your metabolism. Now, I'm not huge on tracking everything, but so many women think that they're moving enough, but many of them are not even getting 5,000 steps per day. And you do want to aim for 5,000 to 7,000 or more. Now, an Oura ring is a bit pricey, but it is a nice way to track your steps. I have one, but there is another ring that I'm checking out right now. I can't think of the name, of course. I will link to it in the show notes. It's way more affordable, and it does basically the same thing as an Oura ring, or you can use an old school pedometer. I will link to one of those in the show notes as well. I actually bought one for Mike recently because he had no idea that he was getting so few steps per day. It's actually become a fun game for the two of us. Every night we will check in with each other to see how many steps each of us did, and I usually win. Okay, moving along. Eat your protein. I know you're so sick of hearing people say this. I'm sure you're sick of hearing me say it, but there's a reason for it. Most women undereat protein. You want to aim for 100 to 120 grams per day, if not more, to support muscle, blood sugar, and satiety. Typically, you're going to want 0.75 to 1 gram per ideal pound of body weight in grams of protein per day. You also want to eat your fiber and smart carbs. Think beans, lentils, all varieties of vegetables, a variety of fruits, mostly low glycemic, high fiber ones like berries or specifically raspberries. These help balance blood sugar. They keep you full, and you're also getting a ton of nutrients from them. Also consider things like leftover cooled potatoes, as those are less starchy, or a very small amount of rice or oats, like a quarter cup, alongside protein and fat. Of course, that's going to need to be adjusted depending on your level of activity, but most women that come to me and that are listening to me are not like bodybuilders or training for some, competition. Most of you are just trying to survive. So a quarter cup, maybe a little bit more of oats and rice, those things that are a little more carb heavy are typically going to be enough. Okay, let's talk about fat. So healthy fats like raw nuts, seeds, olives, avocados, even nut butters without, added sugar or oils can be really nutritious and delicious, but also very calorie dense, and they add up fast. So watch out for what I call the healthy fat trap, especially if you're somebody who follows a more plant-based diet, if you're avoiding animal protein. Many women rely on nuts and seeds for protein, but you really do have to eat a lot to get the amount of protein that your body needs, and that's going to increase your fat intake and thus your daily calorie intake. Then you have to consider your gut health and detoxification. Hormones are metabolized in the gut and your liver. So if you're constipated, if you're dealing with a lot of bloating or digestive issues, that's a problem, right? You want to aim to be pooping every day. You want to hydrate well. You want to sweat and support your liver with real food and the right nutrients for you. This is why we use an HTMA, hair tissue mineral analysis, with all of our clients, as well as functional blood work, so that we can properly assess what their body actually needs. Lastly, there are some general supplements that can help. I wouldn't say that these will directly cause weight loss, but they will support detoxification as well as blood sugar balance. So some of those are magnesium, inositol, and even berberine. Now, obviously that depends on your needs, and I wouldn't take berberine specifically too long term, as it does disrupt the gut microbiome. It can actually be a good thing if you've got some pathogens and bad gut bugs, but taking it long term is not typically advised. So the bottom line is HRT can be life-changing when it's dosed properly and combined with the right nutrition and, of course, lifestyle support. So if you've noticed weight gain after starting hormones, it doesn't mean that the hormones don't work for you or that you're resistant to them necessarily. I believe that it is your body's way of saying that it needs some adjustments, whether that's dose changes, the type that you're using, nutrition tweaks, or better support for your metabolism and overall gut health. And remember, you don't have to choose between feeling better hormonally and struggling with your weight. With the right plan, you can have both. I really do believe that. But please know, it does take patience and time. So please give yourself and your changing body some grace. Thanks so much for listening. If this episode resonated with you, please do share it with somebody who's also navigating midlife. And don't forget to subscribe to the show, whether you listen on Apple, Spotify, or watch on YouTube, so you never miss an episode. I'll see you next week. You've heard me say over and over again how important it is to consume ample protein. As we lose hormones in perimenopause, it is vital to balance our blood sugar and increase lean muscle mass. Protein is one way of doing that, and too many women underconsume this vital macronutrient. While I recommend getting the majority of your protein from whole foods, I'm also a realist and know that life gets busy and sometimes you just need something on the go. Equip Prime Protein is my go-to grass-fed, non-GMO protein powder. Our clients love it, and it comes in a bunch of delicious flavors, or unflavored if you prefer. You can throw it into a shake, mix it with yogurt, make protein pancakes, or whip up a hot beverage. Try it yourself at equipfoods.com/healthcoachclaudia and save 15% with code healthcoachclaudia. Hey, before you go, if you're resonating with this podcast and realize that your symptoms are anything but normal, my comprehensive program, the Perimenopause Method, may be a great fit for you. My team and I help women in their mid-30s to early 50s improve symptoms such as fatigue, disrupted sleep, anxiety, erratic moods, bloating, and much more. We do this by utilizing advanced testing, a personalized plan tailored to you, women's health and hormones education, and ongoing support so you never feel alone and you get results. If you're ready to commit to your health and feel like yourself again, but even better, check out the link in the show notes to learn more about the Perimenopause Method. The information provided is for educational and informational purposes only. I am not, nor do I act as a doctor or any other medical professional. I am not providing healthcare, medical services, or attempting to diagnose, treat, prevent, or cure any physical, mental, or emotional disease or condition. The information shared is not intended to be a substitute for the professional medical advice provided by your own medical or mental health provider.